March magic for Kevin Keats and the NC State Wolfpack. One of the most 11 seeds have been magical over the years, but this has to be one of the the most insane ones with Michael O'Connell hitting that shot to send that ACC tournament game to overtime, and then just how fun DJ Burns was to watch, and that entire team, the pieces fit together so well. It was pretty awesome to see them beat Duke and make the Final Four. Christian and Nick here with Noah Fleischman, who covers NC State for the Wolfpacker on 3 Sports. Obviously, last year was amazing, that run. Tell us what the vibes have been, in the time since, and if you think NC State can build on that this season.
Yeah, the vibes have been pretty good, as you would expect a team that won 9 games in a row to make it to the Final Four in Phoenix. Yeah, they want to build off of it for sure. They were able to use that momentum in the transfer portal, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and they really think that they can take that the way they played those 9 straight games and play in the regular season that way instead of waiting till the last month of the year to play that way. But otherwise, they've had fun. They got their rings recently, and they're ready to go for this year.
Just going off the success last season, you want to maintain that going into this new season. I think it'd be unfair to have too high of expectations because, the Final Four run off an 11th seed. That's not an every year thing. But like you said, you can maintain some more regular season success and ACC success. So let's talk about some of the portal ads and some of the guys coming back. You guys return a really nice core of Michael O'Connell, Jaden Taylor, Dennis Parker, all really solid guards coming back. And I actually like what Keats did in the portal this season with adding Marcus Hill from Bowling Green, Mike James from Louisville, and Dontrez Styles from Georgetown. I think they all fit his system perfectly. They're a little bit streaky of players, but I like their game. So let's just kind of talk about this season's expectations with the starting 5 and the portal ads.
Yeah, they're really excited about what they added from the portal. I mean, this is a team that last year used the portal to its advantage and were able to get them to gel at the right time and play well. Obviously, they've learned from it. They've had success in the portal in the past. I mean, that was nothing new. But this year, they're really excited about what they were able to add. A couple of guys from Louisville, Dontrez Styles from Georgetown, who started his career at North Carolina. Their starting 5 this year is going to be kind of interesting. I don't know if anyone really knows what to expect outside of like a Michael O'Connell leading the way at point guard. Brandon Huntley Hatfield probably will start at center for NC State coming from Louisville. But there's a lot of guys that I think are pushing for playing time if you look at what they brought in. And then they got a guy like Ishmael Diouf, a guy from Canada who came in late, and they're really excited about him. He's a guy that can play the 3 to 4, and I think that he's a guy that can slot into the starting spot eventually. Don't know if it'll be at the beginning of the year, but overall, this is a team that is going to look a lot different than it was a year ago. But I think that they're really excited to build off what they did.
So I thought Michael O'Connell and Middlebrooks were fantastic in their roles last year, right? Like they are the leaders, I assume, this year alongside Taylor. Do you expect their production to significantly increase, or do you think like they'll kind of be similar to what they were last year, and it's a guy like Brandon Huntley Hatfield who that breakout is expected from him, or even a guy like Mike James, who was very streaky at Louisville, but he has a little bit of flair to him of like, I don't know, the way that Terquavion or even DJ Horn, some of the way those guys would just play with pace and create and not be afraid to shoot it. Like I could see Keats liking that about him. And then this Canadian guy, Ishmael, I don't know anything about him. Can you tell us more about him as well?
Yeah, he's a guy that played in the college ranks in Canada for a couple of years. He was playing with a pro team, kind of like Canada's pro league's kind of weird, where they can have a college player on their pro team and get experience that way. So he was playing with them, and they kind of just were looking to add to fill that last roster spot that they had on the scholarships, and somehow came about finding him in Canada. He fits really well. He's a rebounder. He's 6'9". He's not a Mohamed Diarra kind of rebounder who's going to go get you 18 boards like he did a couple of times for NC State last year, but they like the way he can play. He can shoot the 3. He can get to the paint. So that'd be fun. But as you talk about Michael O'Connell, I think they're really expecting him to take a jump forward this year. During the regular season last year, he averaged 6 points a game. But in the postseason, he scored double digits basically every game he played. So I think they're really expecting a lot from him. And he can also create for others. This is a guy that, is one of the best, playmakers of getting his teammates involved. And then you talk about Mike James coming from Louisville. I think he fits well. Talk about being a streaky shooter. DJ Horn was the same way. He didn't start off the year great. Then he had a stretch where he had 25 points or more in like 6 straight games. So we'll see what they can do with him. They have stressed the fact they've got 2 guys from Louisville, who was the last place team in the ACC a year ago, that just because they're coming from a bad team doesn't mean they're bad players. And I think they got two of their best players off that roster, and they hope that they can slot them in and play well. And then last thing is Ben Middlebrooks. I don't think they're expecting anything different. He'll probably come off the bench, play in that second center spot, and provide stability. He can score when needed, but he's a guy that can get them 67 points, 6 to 7 rebounds a game, and they'll be happy with it.
Yeah, I guess the pushback, like you had mentioned, was getting two players who were going to play key minutes from Louisville. And that was just more of a bad situation, in my opinion, with a bad coach. But Chris had brought up Brandon Huntley Hatfield. And down the stretch last year, he scored double digits in the last 11 games. And he shot 43% from three, granted low volume, 9 for 21 on the season. But, no one can be DJ Burns because DJ Burns is just DJ Burns. But what are we expecting out of Huntley Hatfield with NC State this season?
Yeah, nobody's going to be DJ Burns. Kevin Keats said he went into the portal initially looking for DJ Burns 2.0 and he couldn't find it. DJ Burns is a one-of-one player. And so he's like, you know what, go find a guy that can play. And yeah, Brandon Huntley Hatfield can stretch the floor a little bit. He can run, which I think Keats liked about it. DJ Burns, as good as he was for NC State, did not like to run the floor. It just is what it is. And Kevin Keats has talked about that. Brandon Huntley Hatfield can get out in transition. The center spot will be a threat. It won't be a 4-on-5 situation when they're running down the floor. So that's good to see. And yeah, he averaged 12.9 points and 8 rebounds a year ago. And I think they're expecting him to take a jump. And this is a guy that could be one of the top scorers for NC State. They like to play through the post. And now with the kind of different post player, Kevin Keats might be able to draw something up for him. But yeah, overall, this is a guy that the transition shouldn't be hard for him either, being at his third school in the college ranks. This should be a pretty seamless transition. And this guy told me he transferred to NC State because he wants to win. And they saw that NC State can win a year ago, and he was the first to commit through the portal, and now he's ready to go and try to get them back to, big things in March.
So I haven't really spoken much about Jaden Taylor and Dennis Parker. Jaden Taylor was a guy that at times I didn't really understand. I didn't think he was that good, just to be frank. And then there were other times where I thought he was really good. He wasn't a huge piece of the run, but he was obviously part of that winning culture and definitely is a talented player. Do you expect him to take a big jump in year two? And then also Dennis Parker, what are expectations for him after, only playing 15 minutes a game last year?
Yeah, Jaden Taylor's interesting. He played in all 41 games a year ago, but he only started 29. He started a lot of the games at the beginning of the season, midway through. But toward the middle part of ACC play, and especially at the end, they put him off the bench. And it was kind of one of those things where he needed to see the game start, the game rhythm. He was struggling just as a starter. But as soon as he went to the bench, his numbers jumped drastically. He ended up being the third leading scorer on the team a year ago for NC State by the end of it. So I think, as crazy as it sounds, he might come off the bench again this year and just play that role as the sixth man coming off the bench and playing well. He still played starters minutes, even though he's coming off the bench. I don't think that really matters of who this first five are out there when Kevin Keats can sub as much as he can. And Dennis Parker Jr., a guy who started 12 games last year, played in 29. He was sick for basically the entire tournament run. He had mono. He was on the bench for a lot of it. He was cleared for the Final Four game, but did not play in that last game. But I think they're expecting things from him. This is a roster that they can play 1 through 13, 1 through 15. Even some of these walk-ons can play a little bit. So I think that, Dennis Parker Jr. is primed for a big year coming off a freshman year, which was a lot of learning experience for him playing in the ACC. He played well against non-conference opponents. It's just when they got to ACC play, things sped up, and you could see he was a freshman for a reason.
Well, when you speak of freshmen, Paul McNeil's a 4-star, Trey Parker's a 3-star, and then Bryce Hurd is a reclassified guy, right, from 2025. Are any of those guys that you think will crack the rotation and be key pieces?
Yeah, Kevin Keats said all three will be able to push for minutes, and they're not expecting to redshirt anybody at the moment. Paul McNeil's, one of the best players come out of North Carolina this year. He is obviously the centerpiece of that class. Trey Parker is a dunking, icon on social media. He's a pretty electric player in that way. He was supposed to join them for last year, ended up staying at OTE for another year before showing up this year. And then, Bryce Hurd, a guy that reclassed, and they're really excited about him too. This is a freshman class that Kevin Keats doesn't look at freshmen right now. He looks at them just as everybody else. It was the same way with Dennis Parker Jr. being the only freshman on the team a year ago. You kind of just got to grow up and play with the big boys, right? So as of now, I would expect multiple freshmen to play key minutes next year or this year, but it all depends on how they fare in practice. Kevin Keats said if they get to the end of the practice, the preseason, they realize that somebody's not ready, they will have that redshirt conversation. But right now, he's not planning on redshirting anyone and letting Paul McNeil and Trey Parker and Bryce Hurd get out there and get some run.
And then Marcus Hill averaged 21 a game last year, obviously at the mid-major level, but do we think that is going to transfer? What have you been hearing about him? And then Dante Styles as well didn't play a ton at Carolina, was huge in that Baylor game that they saved their asses on that run, and then was solid at Georgetown last year. The more you talk about this team, I'm starting to think like this could be a pretty transfer heavy starting lineup if a guys like Middlebrooks and Taylor are coming off the bench, and that's interesting to me. So what are you thinking about Hill and Styles?
Yeah, Hill's the leading scorer. If you look at just numbers from last year coming into this year, he leads the team and with 21 points. He was one of the best in college basketball getting to the free throw line and making free throws. He's a guy that doesn't shoot the three extremely well, but he can find ways to make plays, get to the basket, draw fouls. And that's what Kevin Keatts, I think, likes. They lacked that a little bit last year with paint touches and getting to the rim. They went in the portal and got a guy that can do that. And then Dante Styles had his best year of his college career at Georgetown. Again, another team that wasn't great a year ago, but he excelled. And they think that he can play really, really well coming back closer to home in North Carolina. And yeah, you talk about transfers playing a big part of this. Most of the run last year was all transfers. The whole starting five did not start their career at NC State. Yeah, some of them returned and they're in their second year like DJ Burns, but they were all guys that started their career somewhere else, some of them on their third school like DJ Burns. So I wouldn't think it's too surprising if we see a lot of transfers in the starting lineup. Kevin Keatts is known for being comfortable playing these transfers. It's a guy, his high school coaching career is kind of paying off. And coaching at Hargrave, where he had a new roster every year. Now he's turning over half his roster every year with new players, and he's getting them to play really, really well. And he's expecting transfers to come in and be immediate impact players. He doesn't want to wait on a transfer to be ready. He expects them to come in and play really, really well.
Yeah. I want to give Keatts his flowers for last season, not just because he made the Final Four, but it was his highest rated defense in Ken Palm since he's been a coach at 38th, and they were French top 10 coming in at 11th offensively and turnover percent. So just two key stats there. My question off that being, what did Keatts do different defensively last season that will go into this season to be another top 50 defense?
He didn't press as much, and that was partly because DJ Burns couldn't get back up and down the floor as quickly, so they had to kind of lay off. But in the half court, they were really, really good, especially in March. That was what won them games. That helped them beat Oakland in the second round, a team that really blasted Kentucky, and then it helped them get past Marquette. It really helped them in every game when you look at it. I mean, that is the biggest part, and Kevin Keatts said it came down to just chemistry. The guys liked playing defense together, and that's really important. Everyone talks about offensive chemistry. Can you find your teammate? Well, defensive chemistry is probably more important. Are you comfortable knowing where everybody is on the floor and you have your assignment? They didn't have many blown assignments down the stretch, and that is, I think, something he's using as a teaching tool going into this year, is saying, hey, we're great on offense. He loves to play offense. You can play at a, really free in his style of play. But if they don't play defense, you're coming out of the game. And that's just as simple as that. And they're going to use that mantra again, just because of how deep they are, with the amount of transfers they have on this roster. If you're not playing defense well, then sit on the bench and wait until you can.
Well, the crazy thing about Ken Palm is, like, end of season they were 38th defensive efficiency. Like, what were they when they were 17-14 when they had lost? What was it?
They lost 4 in a row.
And 7 of 9, like basically from the beginning of February. So, like, unbelievable turnaround, and building that chemistry when you're losing that many games is a testament to the group and to Keatts. When you talk about the defensive chemistry, this is like a small detail that maybe sickos like me, obviously I assume you notice this because you know basketball and you're at every game, but something I noticed from watching on TV was Michael O'Connell specifically, and I'll put Casey Morcell in this, just so good as off-ball defenders, just filling in gaps and just like taking the passing lanes. Like I understand Marquette missed shots and stuff, and maybe you could argue that they had some good regression and stuff on the run, but it's like, man, they defended so well together in the half court. And I do think Michael O'Connell will be one of the most underrated players in the ACC, at least to start the year, until people start to realize that, how many things he does outside of the stat sheet. And like you said, he was scoring the basketball more and rebounding it and setting guys up. Like, I'm a huge fan of him. I think he's awesome. And it was just such a small detail of watching him defend off the ball. I'm like, he's just doing everything right. He's just such a smart player. And I think they'll miss Morcell a bit on that end of the floor, but this is where the, building off that Final Four run comes in, right? Like you see a team like FAU last year, they had their ups and downs with a lot of the same guys back. And NC State's not in that same category of bringing everyone back, but I don't know, when you have foundational pieces who win, it's like, guys, you got to listen to what these guys have to say. if you're coming in, especially from Louisville or from a place where you didn't win, or Georgetown, right? Schools where you didn't win, like you got to listen to those guys. And that's why, even though I don't think this roster is as good as last year's roster, which I mean, it would be hard to be that, especially, the way they were playing at the end of the year. But I don't know. I just think the winning culture and some of those pieces are going to be huge this season for them.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Michael O'Connell is definitely the X factor of this team during the run. He's probably the X factor this year. I mean, yes, he hit the shot against Virginia, a buzzer beater, getting fouled. It wasn't called a foul, making it and kind of helping propel them. But yeah, he's really good. Defensively, Casey Morcell will be missed. He didn't shoot the ball really well last year, had a pretty big fall off from the year before, but his possession against RJ Davis in the ACC championship game might have been his best defensive possession of his career. He was all over him the entire time and made a block and went the other way with it. So we'll see what happens. But I definitely think that, the winning culture is something that's interesting because a lot of these guys know what it takes to win and know what it takes to get to March now and play well. And I think that's important because a year ago they were really connected and that's what helped them get through these games. And now I think getting that again will be really important, and we'll see how quickly it takes to do that. Because, I mean, their non-conference schedule is loaded. They got Kansas on the road. They're playing home against Texas. They're going out to San Diego to play Purdue, BYU, and Ole Miss. Like, we're going to find out what this team looks like pretty quick.
Absolutely. That's quite the gauntlet. Last thing before we let you go here, Noah, Nick mentioned the turnover percentage. That's 3 straight years that Kevin Keatts has coached a team that's been top 11 in the country in taking care of the basketball. How does he continue to do it with different personnel? And they're not a super slow team. They're not, they like to play fast at times, but they'll play in the half court. They'll play through the post. What is it about a Kevin Keatts coach teams that continues to rank at the top of that? And I mean, do you expect that to continue this year with guys like, Mike James coming in who maybe are a little bit more, or it's just a lot of new pieces? Like how is he able to continue to get the teams to do this?
Yeah, he likes to be able to do it. I think last year was really important. They were able to do it because they had 2 point guards on the floor. If you really think about it, Michael O'Connell and DJ Burns were both a point guard. DJ Burns is a very big point guard.
You're not saying DJ Horn doesn't count?
Yeah, DJ Horn, when he had to run the show in the Final Four game, it did not go as well with having Michael O'Connell. Sure. But he can pass the ball and he could find guys really easily. But those 2 guys really made it easy to find somebody else on the floor, and I think that's going to be important this year. They don't force a lot of things. They've got a lot of guys that can create their own shot, which I think helps limiting some turnovers at times. And I think that's what we're going to have to look for. But yeah, it comes down to Michael O'Connell. We've talked about him a lot in this recording, and I think that's a pretty important piece of this offense. And keeping him healthy will be really important because we saw what happened when he got hurt in the Final Four and really couldn't play after that.
Well, thank you for all the insight and color on this NC State team, Noah. It was great having you on the show, and hope you enjoy a great hoop season.
Yeah, appreciate it.